We're now going to find the equation of a straight line when you are given 2 points that the straight line goes through. So in the example it says find the straight line which passes through the points 3, 4 and 0, minus 2. To get the equation of any straight line you need two things. You need to know its gradient and you need to know its y-intercept. Once you know those two things, you sub those values into the general equation of a straight line and you have the equation for that straight line. So let's get the gradient first. So I'm going to put a little title, gradient M. So underneath the gradient we're going to write down our 2 points. So our 2 points are 3, 4 and 0, minus 2. So we're going to use the gradient formula here to calculate the gradient. So in order to do that we label each point first. So this is point 1. So we're going to label the x coordinate x1. We're going to label the y coordinate y1. We're going to do the same with point 2. We're going to label the x coordinate x2 and we're going to label the y coordinate y2. We're now going to write down the gradient formula for any straight lines joining 2 points. So m equals y2 minus y1. So it's the difference in the y coordinates, in other words the rise, all over the difference in the x coordinates, x2 minus x1. In other words, the run. We're now going to sub in all the values. So m is equal to, y2 is negative 2, so put it in brackets. We're subbing in a negative. We're then subtracting y1 is just 4. And that's all over. x2 is 0. And again we're subtracting, copy down the minus sign from the formula. And x1 is just 3. So let's tidy it up. We're going to have minus 2 subtract 4 is negative 6. And that's all over 0 subtract 3 is negative 3. Now, sort the sign out. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so our answer is positive. And then 6 divided by 3 is just going to give us 2. So we've now worked out the gradient of this line. The second thing we need to work out is the y-intercept, which is plus c. Now, in order to get the y-intercept, you need to look for where the line cuts the y-axis. Wherever the line cuts the y-axis, that is the y-intercept. So what I would do here is I would actually draw a sketch of the 2 points, just a very, very quick sketch. So rule x and y axes really, really quickly. So the point 3, 4, so go along the x-axis 3 and up 4, say somewhere up there. So we'll label that 3, 4. And then we'll sketch the position of 0, minus 2. So move along the x-axis nothing, so you're on the y-axis, and then move down 2. So you're going to be somewhere there, so that is 0, minus 2. Again, you could join them. Like that. Now, the y-intercept plus c is where the line cuts the y-axis. So you can clearly see the line cuts the y-axis at negative 2. So the y-intercept is negative 2. Now the other way of doing it without a sketch here is that the y-intercept is always the y-coordinate of the point that has an x-coordinate of 0. So if you have a point with an x-coordinate of 0, whatever the y-coordinate of that point is, that will be your y-intercept. So here's the good news. We've got the gradient of the line, we've got the y-intercept of the line, Now we can get the equation of the line. So our next little title, equation. And then we're going to write down the general equation for any straight line, y equals mx plus c. And all we're doing is we're going to replace the gradient m with what we calculated, plus 2. And we're going to replace the y-intercept plus c with what we calculated it to be. So the y-intercept plus c, that was -2. And the gradient was plus 2. So we're now in a position to write down our final answer. So the equation for the straight line is y equals 2x, or plus 2x, minus 2. And that's it. And it makes sense. Even if you looked at the little sketch here when we were identifying the y-intercept, the line is sloping up, so its gradient is clearly positive. And then the number, remember the number term, is the y-intercept. That's where the line crosses the y-axis. And that's it. That's how you find the gradient of a line, the equation of a line joining 2 points. Calculate the gradient first, then draw a little sketch and use it to identify what the y-intercept is. Then write down the general equation of the straight line, and then sub in your values for the gradient and the y-intercept.